Blue and Green Economy, staff of the project implementation unit, contractors who are here with us this morning, members of the media, other invited guests. Good morning again, everyone. Today we are here for the boat building and landing sites signing of contracts ceremony. And this falls under the Emergency Agricultural Livelihoods and Climate Resilience Project, where support is being extended to the agriculture sector through the provision of boat engines, equipment, training for boat builders, renovations of boat building facilities, and the construction of boats and canoes. So this morning, 5 contractors will sign contracts as boat builders and another 3 for infrastructural works at three of our landing sites. So looking at our program, I see we're in for a brief but significant ceremony. And to get us started, I would like to call on the Honorable Julian Defoe. He's the Minister of State in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy, with special responsibility for fisheries. Please welcome Honorable Defoe.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I have to switch. It happens when it turns 40. That I was told. Okay, Honorable Dr. Irvin McIntyre, Minister responsible for Finance, Economic Development, Climate Resilience, and Social Security. Other honorable ministers, and I must identify Honorable Pinard since his constituency is a beneficiary, Honorable Oscar George, so many of us. Mr. Rainer Ansem, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy. Mr. Derek Theophile, Chief Fisheries Officer. Mr. Stevenson, the Project Director of the PIU, Project Implementation Unit. Staff of the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Blue Economy, both from the Fisheries Division itself and the administrative arm. Staff of the PIU of the DILCREP project, Dominica Emergency Climate Resilience Project, as I like to call it, something I like to use a long name. The media, of course, is very important, and I left last. The contractors, both for the infrastructure work and the boat building. Of course, I can name those I see by name. I see Mr. Fermin, I see Jonathan, I see Robert. We're missing 2 of them. The infrastructure individuals I'm not too familiar with, so I won't call you by names. And other invited guests who are here with us from other ministries, well-wishers, and so on. I have I could say this morning and today, I'm indeed elated to address you at this very important juncture in the implementation of the Dominica Emergency Agricultural Livelihoods and Climate Resilient Projects. This is the long name of the project, and in short we say DILCREP, and some people do not put the D, so they say ILCREP, which will mark the commencement of key deliverables under the fisheries component of this project. In recent times, you would have seen other momentous occasions led by the Honorable Roy under this very same project, and the most recent being the contract signing for the abattoir. So I'm saying this thing to let you know that the project in its entirety entails not only the traditional agriculture as we know it, but also includes livestock and fisheries, and more specifically, fisheries fall under the component A1, just to go into more detail of the entire project. Post-Hurricane Maria, the government of Dominica made a strategic decision to contract from the World Bank $25 million or 66 million EC for the restoration of the agriculture sector in Dominica, which includes fisheries. So once again this morning, this ceremony is just another milestone in the project's lifespan, but most importantly demonstrating government's firm commitment to those who matters most, which are the key stakeholders, and these are our farmers and fisher folks. To even be more specific, component A1 will invest or is investing 5.4 million for the restoration of fisheries livelihoods and an additional 2 million from the additional investment from the government of Dominica for the contingency emergency response component, which we usually refers to as CIRC, through the World Bank as a response to COVID-19. So while there are two initiatives, and over time we have mentioned it, but I just keep reminding that the very first initiative was 5.4 under the first component, and again with the new mechanism post-COVID, we had government went ahead and allocated further investment into the fisheries sector, which amounts to $2 million. Ladies and gentlemen, it is through these direct investments and others in fisheries, we are truly creating the enabling environment for a robust and resilient sector, as it articulated in the overall vision for resiliency by the Honorable Prime Minister of Dominica. Investments in infrastructure, training, and equipment that bolster our capacity to weather challenges, not just today, but well into the future. Fisheries in Dominica is much more than industry. It is a way of life, a cornerstone of our economy, and a heritage we must protect and preserve. However, we must also provide the means for adaptation to transition using modern technology and meeting national and international food safety standards. And I add these additional words to say that I always wish for us to preserve in the minds the traditions of the canoe and so on, but to know that for us to prosper and for us to make fisheries a greater contributor to GDP, there are additional investments we have to make, and we have to move into technology, and we have to, but most important in this word, fish is mostly about consumption and trade. So therefore, the aspect of meeting food safety standards is of, perhaps now in industry, paramount. The intervention undertaken by the government are aimed at restoring production capacity, enhancing climate resilience, and improving the livelihoods of our fisherfolk. Through the restoration of fisheries livelihoods and resilient infrastructure, we're ensuring that this vital sector can withstand the impacts of climate change. Recognizing from the inception the importance of the fisheries sector for the reasons of employment, food security, and the potential for improved contribution to GDP through its exports, it was apparent that special focus and attention was necessary. To this end, we have implemented several strategic interventions aimed at addressing gaps and challenges in key areas of human resource capacity, infrastructure, and equipment. So the project in general is in entirety, we can say, is broken down into 4 phases. 2 of these 4 has already been implemented, and I will list them phase by phase. In phase 1, we saw the procurement of 108 outboard engines, 68 of which were 50 horsepower engines, and 40 of which were 100 horsepower engines, at a cost of approximately $2 million. Or to be more specific, I like to round up $1.9 million. This is a significant investment in not just only the fishers, but all of these engines were procured through a local agent. So you had a local business at one time receiving $1.9 million, and you can well calculate what the spill-off is, because all of these huge companies with workers and so on. So it's not only directly the beneficiary, but the spill-off effect into the economy. And more importantly, that we saw a major transition at that time. I mean, we had individual fishers who already transitioning from 2-stroke to 4-strokes. But one time, injecting 108 4-stroke in industry was a major milestone and a major shift from 2-stroke to 4-stroke. And what is the significance of that? So the significance of that is, you heard us talking about earlier on climate change and climate resilience. You might be wondering, but what is it that we are doing that is contributing to that? So this is where our contribution comes, because a 2-stroke significantly, almost by 80 or 90%, reduce the amount of carbon emission that is delivered into the environment by the nature of the technology that is used. And for a small island state, even though we are a net emitter, and I like to say that we are a net emitter, but we're still playing a major role in contributing to the overall reduction in greenhouse gas. In phase 2, again, a major milestone we saw, it was heavily concentrated on developing and enhancing the capacity of our boat builders. And I would prefer to say enhancing because we already had a cadre of boat builders who perhaps not have the necessary documentation or certificates, but were already well skilled and were producing boats for the market. So the aim of this phase 2 was to just enhance these individuals. So as you know, through the World Bank process, there was an expression of interest, and very lucky for us, we had at least 5 of our main boat builders, becoming beneficiaries of this training. And these, when I say boat builders, you have many people who can do some level of boat construction, but these were the 5 people who were mostly constructing boats for a living for individuals. And I named 3 of them earlier on, and the 2 additional individuals are Bertley Carrett from Layu and Albanachi Aki from Portsmouth. Okay, so these individuals, along with their aides, so that makes up a total of 18 individuals were trained collectively. And the way that they were trained, we had a naval architect who from India, who came from on several occasions and had many sessions with them. A lot of them involved the exchange of ideas of how they could improve what they were already constructing. And the end result in that, if I do not know, many people may have seen on social media, is 2 molds were constructed, and from these 2 molds, a prototype was developed and was tested, and again, the success and the reviews were overwhelming. So it proved that these individuals now have the capacity to not only enhance their own individual lines of boat, because what I wish to say why they have developed these prototypes, but each of these 5 individuals have their own distinctive designs, okay, which they will add on, but they now also have the capacity to build the basic prototype that was developed through the capacity enhancement and training with them. The 3rd phase, as we look to the future, will bring large-scale production, as I say, and their task and their purpose here today is to sign their contract for the construction of 50 boats, all of which may not be the prototypes, some of which will be their own individual designs, but some will be a mirror or the use of the molds that have been, and which will replicate the prototype that was constructed. So it will be a mix. We're looking at for phase 4, and phase 4 is the component that came under the CIRC, which is the additional $2 million government invested from the CIRC, that is in response to the post-COVID-19 pandemic. And so there was intervention not only in fisheries, livestock, and agriculture, but the fisheries subsector felt that simultaneously with these investments in improving the number of boats, and I will say investments from other bilateral partners, you could see the complete rehabilitation of the Roseau Fisheries Complex, and some other initiatives that we may have with organizations like the OECS and so on, we felt that it is necessary and the time is right for us to do further enhancements into our landing sites. So in this case that we have identified 8 landing sites where key interventions will be made, which is Bioche, Dubla, Maho, Saint-Sauveur, Foncolé, Newton, and Scott's Head. A lot of the intervention will vary, but majority of this intervention will lend to the enhancement of food security and standards in which fish are handled at these landing sites. Okay. So the landing sites serve as a lifeblood of the fishery industry, as we all know, providing essential services such as storage, vending, and equipment maintenance. With upgrades to locker rooms, slipways, storage facilities, and other critical infrastructure, we're ensuring that our fisher folks have the facilities they need to operate safely, hygienically, and efficiently. The total investment I have mentioned of the sites exceed $1.9 million, thus we can see $2 million. These improvements will lead to increased fish sales, restored livelihoods, and greater community resilience. By focusing on climate resilience, we are not only securing the sustainability of our fishers, but also creating pathways of becoming the first climate resilient nation in the world, where sustainability and resilience are not just buzzwords, but guiding principles in the development of our efforts. So with these few words, I would like to say thank you to the individuals who have put themselves forward, because we know qualifying for the World Bank for projects that are funded by the World Bank, though it is loan, takes quite a bit of effort, and we have had to help our individuals who does today have qualified in their capacity in some way, some form, because there are requirements that you have to meet, there are documents that you have to provide, and sometimes a lot of our local people tend to shy away from these processes and therefore cannot benefit. So I want to, in a very special way, want to praise and thank those who have taken the extra effort to put their foot forward, and therefore, if this is your first time of qualifying for such a project, then it would have provided the impetus for you to have the confidence to apply for things in the future. With this, I would like to say thanks to the 3 individuals who will engage in the contractual engagement for infrastructure and for our 5 boat builders, and we hope that you can do so in a timely manner, and so or that we can deliver those to the beneficiaries in a timely manner also based on your efficiency. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Honorable Defoe for his overview of the project and the interventions that have been made that directly impact the livelihoods of fishers and the potential for economic growth, as well as consolidating our efforts towards national food security. At this point, we will hear from the Honorable Dr. Irvin McIntyre, the Minister for Finance, Economic Development, Climate Resilience, and Social Security.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me first recognize Honorable Julian Defoe, Minister of State in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Blue and Green Economy. Other honorable ministers, Honorable Pinard is here with us, and Honorable George as well. Mr. Ryan Ansem, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy. Other Permanent Secretaries, Mr. Derek Theophile, Chief Fisheries Officer, Mr. Kevin Stevenson, Project Manager, Project Implementation Unit, staff of the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Blue and Green Economy, staff of the Project Implementation Unit, contractors, the media, other invited guests. Pleasant good morning to everyone gathered here today. Congratulations to the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Blue and Green Economy, specifically the Project Implementation Unit of the Emergency Agriculture Livelihoods and Climate Resilience Project, for reaching this milestone as another step in its contribution to creating the economic infrastructure for our socio-economic development. This project is meant to catalyze agricultural output so that we achieve key resilience goals such as food security, reduce importation of food items, enhance capacity to produce food, the modernization of our processes and infrastructure in agriculture, and the creation of jobs. The success of the PIU consequently are incremental steps towards the realization of these goals, and for this, all who work in the unit or facilitate its work must be commended. More broadly, today's contract signing is a step towards achieving the kind of macro development outcomes that I detailed in Parliament during my recent budget address. These include enhanced economic resilience, the creation of new investment opportunities, and increased job creation. It is our view in the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development that one practical strategy to economic prosperity and social development is through the creation of an ambitious and sustainable economic framework that facilitates the job creation and increased earnings that are necessary for our prosperity. The construction and distribution of these 50 boats and the rehabilitation of 8 fish landing sites will be precisely that. They will allow our officials to catch larger loads so that we reduce our reliance on imported seafood while increasing their earnings and providing for their families. Of course, the fact that the boat builders are all from Dominica, from north to south, must not be overlooked. The ministry is ensuring that the investment in our blue economy percolates through our society, benefiting not solely the fishers, but all those who form part of the ecosystem of the blue economy. This investment is also part of our broader objective to advance national food security and contribute to our nutritional goals for our population. By ensuring a steady supply of fish, both for local and consumption and export, we are securing our food sources and encouraging access to high-quality protein that supports our effort to promote healthy eating and combat CNCDs. The investment did not come easily. It is made possible in part through borrowed money from the World Bank, an $8 million loan that we must repay. This isn't free money. This observation is significant because it highlights the depth of the commitment of the government of Dominica, manifested through the Ministry of Finance, towards the expansion of agriculture and the enhancement of the livelihoods for all who work in the sector. Notwithstanding the reduced fiscal space for small island developing states like Dominica, exacerbated by modern realities of global conflict and climate change, our government prioritizes investments that have meaningful and direct significance to the life of each citizen. It is therefore in this context of strategic investment in the economic infrastructure that I wish to consider today's event an investment that is meant to further catalyze output and facilitate the flow of capital through communities and households across the island. Fellow citizens, I reiterate my commendations to the Ministry of Agriculture and extend congratulations to the contractors and those who will benefit from the fruits of these contracts. I encourage all of you to continue your stellar work towards the development of Dominica. I thank you.
Our thanks to Honorable Dr. Irvin McIntyre for his remarks, which take us to the main objective of being here this morning, which is to sign the contracts for the building of 50 boats and the reconstruction of 3 fish landing sites, 3 of 8, but today we sign contracts with 3 contractors. So while we ready ourselves for the signing, just to inform you that under the project, we will see the rehabilitation of landing sites at Bioche, Dieu Blanc, Maho, Saint-Sauveur, Foncolé, Newtown, Scotshead, and Stowe. Today we sign contracts for the rehabilitation of sites at Bioche, Dieu Blanc, and Maho. So when I call your name, you will come to the front, seated next to the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Anselm, and we will undertake the signing. So we begin with Mr. Daniel Firmin of Soufrière. You will be contracted to build 10 boats. Mr. Robert Dublin of Massac. He too is contracted to build 10 boats. Mr. Jonathan Joseph of Collyho, who will also build 10 boats on the project. Mr. Bertley Carrett of Layu, contracted to build 14. Okay. He's not with us this morning, but he will be represented by. Okay, well, we'll move on to Albanaki Aki of Portsmouth. All right, so these are our 5 boat builders. The boats will be built, the grand total of EC $950,000. Oh, for the labor. Mr. Stevenson is clarifying that the 950s covers the labor costs. Materials come at another cost. We move on now to the those who will sign contracts for reconstruction of fish landing sites, beginning with Mr. Tyrone Gabriel of Biosh. The work will include a renovation of locker rooms, including the building frames, roof electrical systems, plumbing, doors, and finishes. Mr. Elvis John Sabrosh of Biosh also. Will work on the fish landing site at Dublin, the completion of the office reception area, the external ice production outbuilding, and the renovation of locker rooms. And finally, the representative of Ken D Construction, who will construct a sleepway and washroom facility at Maho. Our thanks to our contractors as well as the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mr. Ryan Anson. Yes. By default, I get to give the vote of thanks, so thank you to the Honorable Finance Minister for your remarks, sir, as well as to Honorable Defo, our Blue Economy and Fisheries Champion, and Mr. Stevenson, as well, to you and your team at the Project Implementation Unit. I see some people who represent the fisheries, for example, the young lady from Saint-Sauveur. Thank you for being here. The contractors, thank you so much for being here, and we wish you the very best as you undertake these projects. Our cabinet members who joined us, members of the media, thank you everyone so much for coming. And just a note, the contractors, if you could just join us at the front so we could take a photo, a group photo. Thank you everyone. Good morning.